Hey guys, check out my awesome Nerf gun.
Whoa, I'm kind of scared, I gotta admit.
Hold on.
That's adorable, but this is a Nerf gun.
What the fuck is that? Okay.
This it just does that. That's what that does. We just got this in the office. We had Cliff in last week, and of course he had fun with it.
It never ends.
They're getting bolder. Those gears were guarding Pomeroy Depot.
Damn, that's just down the road.
Exactly. They're moving deeper every day.
It's been 2 years since Gears of War 1, and finally got a chance to play significant portions of the single player of Gears 2. It felt really very similar to Gears 1. I mean, it looks similar. I mean, there are subtle differences, and the lighting's been improved. Like, the game does look better than it did, first time around, but it still feels very much the same. It's that same, and I hate to use the term, but stop and pop gameplay where you're slamming into cover and you're taking out enemies and moving from point to point in these. You almost have like mini arena battles, and you move from one mini arena battle to another. And starts out you're back with some of your normal squad and some new guys. The new Carmine is you find out it's actually his brother, and you got Dom and Marcus back, and
You got Ty in there.
Ty, good to see you. What are we looking at?
Locust Raid, follow me.
What's so cool is like every time you kill somebody with a new weapon, there's this variety, is a spice of death, little thing that pops up, and I kind of like realized very early, like, oh, I get that every time I use a new weapon. So I would just run into a new weapon. I'm like, I got to kill someone with it.
And it's definitely, it shows that you have these achievement trackers. Valve did it with the Orange Box, and they've probably done it with other games. But it's almost like you have a mini achievement building up to your main achievement. Because if you're not someone that just actively goes after achievements, there are a lot of times you just won't get them because you won't go after them. But with this little reminder, like, I would do exactly what you just said. Like, every time I'd pick up a new weapon, like, I would make sure I used it so that I could then get that achievement.
So pretty early on, a couple of chapters in, they switch over to where like you go on this big big tank thing, this big mobile personnel
Reminds
unit.
me of a
The grind loops.
and was a thing from Star Wars. I should know.
Sandcrawler? Yeah, it kind of does look like that. And you kind of get placed up on a turret. And you were complaining about that part.
I played through the entire game on hardcore, and it was pretty easy. I'm doing really good. And then I die at the turret part, and I'm like, the first time I die is at like a point in the game where it's not like the core gameplay, and I was kind of frustrated at that.
And that sequence is tough though, because you have to go on the turret at certain points, but you also have enemies that are coming up the sides. You have enemies on other grind lifts that have taken them over, like Locust, and you're having to, like, gunfights in between those different grind lifts. Meanwhile, they're all driving independently of one another. You're moving through this kind of forest, so there's stuff going on like in every direction, and it's tough to keep track of sometimes. Up in this town called Landown, which is up in the mountains, kind of a snow villa kind of deal. There's not much snow on the ground at this point. Everything's been kind of like run down. It's like a city that used to be a human enclave, but that's been overrun by locusts for a long time, and you're trying to like take it back. This is the first time you run into these tickers, who kind of replaced the Lambent Retchers from the first game, the little guys that jump from the ceiling and then blow up. They were really frustrating, and when I first saw the tickers, I was like, oh shit, it's this all over again. But I found like the auditory clues that they're around, they make this like clicking noise, and so you immediately know one's around if you hear that.
As soon as you identified them, you kind of would roll backward and shoot them or something.
Yes.
And even if they blew up, I didn't ever die. I just got down to red pretty much, but I was able to usually jump away and then kill them.
One of the new characters too, Dizzy, who's kind of
He drives the truck.
he drives the grind lift, and he's kind of like a country boy. He's kind of like if they put Ted Nugent in the game.
Hold them off, boys! Get your asses down there!
You're trying to take out the enemies so that Dizzy can move through with the grind lift. And at the end of the sequence, you finally get your hand on the mortar, which is like the other new heavy weapon, and it's really different than any other like weapon you use in the game, in that there is a bit of a learning curve to it.
Yeah, it has that little kind of click meter, It's like as you hold the button down, it kind of goes up and up and up, shoots it off to that distance.
and then it leaves the little line from your
There's a
last
little
shot
stroke of
up.
brilliance there.
So you know whether to like release it before that or release it after it.
Yeah, and I think that first act ends really well then, because like you got a Brumak coming out of a cave, and you have to like clear him out to get in there.
This is the first time that you fought a Reaver on the ground. In the first game, they were just flying. They were kind of sort of generic Matrix-y looking characters. And so the first time they actually flew in and landed, which was in the first level, it was kind of surprising. Like, you really weren't expecting it. And your first thought is like, you know, how am I going to kill this big thing?
It's pretty scary because they're lashing out with their legs, kind of like they really just look like insects or something.
Yeah, and they shoot missiles out.
I would always shoot for like the rider first and knock him out. But you would go up there and like you would like plant a grenade on one of the legs.
You can roll up really close and throw a grenade in the underbelly and just kind of roll away and blow it up.
Like later on in the game, you know, you get to ride one of them.
And when you start out, you're underground and you're in the cave, and then you're shooting these huge Brumaks, and you fight a ton of Brumaks throughout the game.
It's almost like in Return of the Jedi, the speeder bike scene, like through the trees and stuff. And it's pretty fast and intense. You have guys like coming behind you, you're shooting them with a chain gun behind, and they kind of pull up parallel to you, so you turn over, use your missiles.
Feels very much like Panzer Dragoon, except you don't have like any auto aim or anything. You're just aiming and firing. So cool once you fight off all those locusts, like, you know, triggers the cutscene. You're getting ready to go on the grind lift to, like, you know, fight the locusts, like more locusts underground this time, and that's when like you run into the General Rom for this game, which is this huge predator-looking guy named Scourge.
He has like a staff with 2 chainsaw blades on either side, and it looks really cool. He's a badass.
For me, like, one of the most interesting parts of this whole first act is you start out in a setting that's very similar to the first game. It's kind of like a broken down city. You know, you've seen that before, but then through the course of the level, like, you go to so many different environments. You have, you know, forests, and you have snow villas, and then underground tunnels. It's so interesting to see that they change up the environments, and yet you still have that kind of core gameplay throughout.
That first act gives you a lot, you know, it takes you through a lot of gameplay elements. You kind of get a sense that, you know, this game's gonna keep mixing it up. Yeah. This first act was a lot of fun.
It's funny too, because like at that point I was like, oh, I wonder if this is just Gears 1.5, and then like the more you play, it's like, it's really cool to see like what they started at that first act, and like what's kind of like what they're setting you up for the rest of the game. Yeah. So,
and, you know, I can't wait till, you know, we can talk about the rest of the game, and then people get a chance to actually play it and see it for themselves.
Never seen the Locust run like this. Running away won't help! I'll just shoot you in your asses!